You're listening to RTL SA.
23 times for South Africa, and I'm just making sure that we've got some sound over here. And he was one of the most beloved players in the country at the time. And I'm wondering, Brent, can you hear me?
Hi, Noel. Yes, I can hear you loud and
Oh,
clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Let me just get you onto the screen there. All right. I'm hating Zoom at the moment. Zoom is really updated recently and doing all funny things. And as I say that, the video has frozen. Brent, thank you so much for making the time, though. I will sort this out while we speak. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us. What a game on Saturday. My word.
Yes, no, I think we were all treated to a spectacle there. I think I read an article just after the game that it's the biggest margin we had beaten the All Blacks in about 90 or so years. So one of the rare occasions where had the upper hand on the All Blacks. So it was a very special game. Good to see the guys putting in the hard work and coming out that convincingly in the end.
Were you surprised?
Um, yes and no. I suppose I was a little bit surprised that we didn't expect a backlash from the New Zealanders. I was expecting them to come out, I suppose, being a lot more difficult, attacking us more, maybe a little bit more clinical. Knowing a New Zealander, you never underestimate the backlash of a few losses. So I was a little bit underestimating that side. I expected that from the All Black. I mean, from the Springboks. We were quite playing up to our game plans, quite clinical, and it paid off in the end. Yes, our game plan hasn't got us into the world champions for nothing. So we go back to what we know. But against the All Blacks, I was just a little bit surprised that we didn't see more. Yeah.
This is what I was saying on the show last week, and people are saying that the All Blacks are down and out. Ian Foster's on his final legs, and they lost to Ireland. And I just quickly reminded people that I was talking to how convincing the All Blacks were against Ireland in the first test, although they lost the next two tests. And an All Black side is one side that you never ever write off. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how many games in a row they lose. You never write them off on the day.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean, I think they are a quality side. Yes, they're going through a little bit of turmoil now about stability with coaches and players. And so I suppose their confidence is a little bit down. I think we're seeing the real net effect of what a COVID has done in terms of players and the UK sides or the European sides. They've been playing proper rugby now for the last 2 years. So their swords are sharpened. I suppose New Zealand only having played Australian sides, and I suppose the islands haven't really bode well for them going into this last 2-3 months. So yes, they are, I suppose, a little hurting. They're definitely hurting, but you can never write them off. I mean, they're a real quality side. They're coming out. No doubt we could see a totally different performance next week or this weekend coming. And so, yeah, you never write them off. I certainly hope we play and beat them, go out and play as we did this last week, and actually see if we can get a bigger score. That's how I would approach this game. Got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So
One of the most outstanding things for me on in the game on Saturday was the defense. I don't think I've ever seen a Springbok side defend the way they defended.
yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, the defense, we definitely put the pressure on the All Blacks. I don't think, expected our defense to be so rushed. And yes, we were clinical. I mean, when you rush up in them, you take away their space. That's when they're the most dangerous. So I think that was a tactic against them, is that we had to get into their face. And we did it well. We put the pressure on them. Our kicks were also quite accurate. And so it sort of got us set and in line. The All Blacks love their broken play. So as soon as they can get a half a gap, they'll capitalize on it. And we managed to keep that out. For a little Orange on the wing there, it was amazing to see him taking on the biggest the biggest guys in the team, and actually, I thought he had the upper hand for the majority of the game. So I mean, it just goes to show if you've got the right attitude and you can really go and close the space and be intentional about getting in their face and tackling. It really paid off for us in the end. And I think that was part of our tactic initially, to just close them up.
The aerial battle was incredible. I think we won every single one of those aerial battles. I don't think we lost one. They were absolutely incredible.
No, you're right. And I mean, it was a very good performance from Hendricks to come out against the All Blacks, first game against the All Blacks, and to actually play that well. So he is a class player. I'd like to see him being developed a little bit more. I still believe that he is more of a running running scrum half for us. But that just goes to show. I mean, when last did we see the Springboks over and over and over actually win aerial battles? We've never really been a side that's been clinically, should I say, astute, and we literally execute perfectly, and that's what we basically did against the All Blacks. We didn't kick the ball down too far. We didn't allow them to attack us. We just played the right game plan, and I think that is what we've learned by playing in the Northern Hemisphere. I think we've learned how to close out on those tight games, because in the Northern Hemisphere they play percentage rugby, so you can't make mistakes there. It's not that flashy, but at the same time, you just consistently try and do what the game plan is. And so, but I think we had an all-round good game, and maybe we took a guy out of the air in that aerial battle.
Yeah, Aronson was a little.
You know what?
He was a bit lucky earlier in the game as well to get away with it.
He was, but I mean, that's what you run the risk of getting these calls against you when you are in their face and you're just closing out space. So that rattled the All Blacks, no doubt. I mean, that rattled them. They didn't know how to play against that. They haven't had that before, and that's how you're going to beat the All Blacks. You've got to bring something new each game. So
I must bring something up. Just talking about this game, I want to talk about your career in just a little bit. But I thought Angus Gardner was particularly good on Saturday, the referee, in the sense that he recognized the game for what it was going to be, and he let the game develop into what it became.
Yeah, I think he is a very good referee. It's very difficult nowadays with all these rules and everything to actually manage a game and let it flow. Against the All Blacks, Springboks, you're the referee, you've got to know that this is a big game. You can't just arrive there and hopefully get a call right or wrong. You've got to know. But he did play the game well. I think the should I say, the set pieces were controlled well. We didn't really find there was a lot of scrappy play. Maybe looking back, if there was an area, maybe he could have been a bit more stricter on the game. I mean, on the advantage line when we were pressing, because we were getting into their space. So, but that wasn't an issue. So he did definitely let the game flow. In saying that, the set pieces we did get a few penalties here and there. But no, all around, I mean, you've got those referees that just continually stop the game because they're wanting to make sure they get that call right or that call wrong, and I mean, just continuously don't let the game flow. It was a very good game in my mind in terms of, we won, so you can look back at it anyway and say
there's no comment section.
Game in our terms.
Yeah, there's no comment section next to the final score, is there?
Yeah.
Brent, in 23 appearances for the Springboks, how many times did you face the All Blacks?
Oh, jeez. Funny enough, I didn't even know all the stats. I don't go and count how many tries or whatever I scored, but I think it was about 3-4 times. I did have a little spell of sitting on the bench for about 4 years under Jake, and so didn't really get on the field too many times in that era. But yeah, I definitely faced them a few times in the squad, in the team. Just would have preferred to have got on. And yeah, I would have liked to have actually been. I mean, I've never scored against the All Blacks, and so for me that was quite a big one. I've always wanted to score. I did drop the ball on the line once when I should have scored. So, but yeah, all good memories.
What I want to ask you when facing the All Blacks is standing there in front of the mighty All Blacks, because they are a mighty side, and they line up to do the haka. What as a player, what is going through your mind at that moment? Do you feel like you've reached the pinnacle of your career to be standing there facing the haka against the All Blacks? What is going through your mind while this is all happening?
Sheesh, a lot's going through your mind. Firstly, you are extremely nervous. You know you're in for a proper game when you're standing there and you see them staring you down, being the haka. You know you're in for a hard day's work. So I go back to my first one. The first time I remember facing the haka, and I just remember going along the line trying to just see who we were playing against, and there was Jonah Lomu in the line, and he was staring straight at me. Luckily, he was on the bench and he didn't come on. But me watching as a 15-year-old watching him play in the '95 World Cup is it often can strike fear, if you want to call it that. But certainly it was an amazing feeling of just actually facing it. Obviously, I would have liked to have played and I suppose scored and played more games against them, because that's ultimately for the Springbok is the pinnacle of what you're trying to do is play against the All Blacks. That's our biggest rival. There's actually a guy going around South Africa now, Michael Charlton. He's done an hour talk. He's more of an historian, an hour talk on the history of the Springboks All Blacks over the last 100 years, and including all the political agendas at the time. So it was the most amazing way that I believe we've been shaped by this rivalry against them. So have they. And going into a test match like this, it's the main game. And so, yeah, as soon as you face the All Black haka, that's it. Business is about to get going.
Yeah.
And so that's all you want to play rugby for, is to face them.
Yeah, I've heard players say before, and players who haven't had the opportunity to face New Zealand, and they played other test matches and things like that, they all say that they missed that one opportunity to play against the All Blacks, and that's the one they wanted. It doesn't matter how many test matches you play, that's the one you want to do. That's the one you want to be involved in.
Yeah, and I think every Springbok player can turn around and say that's the main game. So it's not. It's just the history, and we've just ended up being our biggest rivals, and for them we are their biggest rivals. So yeah, it's sad to see that our local Super Rugby competition has actually moved away from that whole playing them on an annual basis. We now are heavily involved in the North, and I think that is potentially a good move for us. I don't think we've seen the real effects of us not playing the All Blacks on during the domestic competition, if you want to call it that. But for us, I think we've got the rub of the green at the moment, and long may it last. I think the All Blacks, you never put them down. They're going to come back, and only time will tell. So
do you think that the Springboks are on the right path? Do you think we're on an upward trajectory to possibly defend the World Cup back to back?
I definitely think yes. If you go and look at our second test against Wales, we put out a team that maybe came across a little bit of arrogance, where we selected 15 new players. But when you look at that quality side, it is the same. It's the same. I think there's still a lot of opportunity for depth in our team. I mean, I don't think we're struggling to get some key players into our back row. So our forwards are immense. They know each other. They've got a lot of caps experience under them. There's a lot of exciting new young players coming up. We're playing a game plan that is people that other teams are finding hard to beat us. So all of that is leading into a good confidence, should I say, going into the World Cup next year. Listen, playing in France is going to be another story again. Those French are immense as well. They're playing well. Ireland are playing well. England's playing well. So is Wales. So it's certainly it's going to be a lot more difficult to defend. But we are, I believe, there and thereabouts. Yes, we've got some areas to improve, but yeah, let's see how the next end of year season goes. We've got to see how our domestic competition in the Heineken Cup goes next year before we can actually really start saying yes, we've got a good chance.
Well, I think the end of the year tour is going to be epic because we're facing off against France and Ireland and England. It's going to be a really epic end of the year tour, and I think that will probably be our gauge to see if we're ready for the World Cup next year or not.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, going over there and trying to win all those games in an end of year season is never easy in the first place. But with these teams being so confident first and second, and obviously in their backyard and there in the wet weather, should I say, it is really going to be a true test to see where we are standing and going into the World Cup. I also am a firm believer that you don't want to show all your hands too early. At the same time, it would be nice to win one of them or two of them, but if you do lose, it's a good reminder that you're playing some good rugby. We mustn't go overly confident into the World Cup thinking we're going to defend it again.
Yeah,
we must know we're sort of on that back foot. We always play well when we're on that back foot, and so yeah, that's what I said. Maybe this Test match against the All Blacks, we're certainly on the front foot, but I'd love to see how we respond again, and let's see if we can go and drive that nail in further. So,
absolutely. You made your Test debut in 2002, I think, and you played for the Boks for quite a few years. What was the highlight of your career? And it doesn't necessarily have to be Springbok rugby because you went on to play some rugby overseas after your Springbok career as well. But what would you say was your biggest highlight as a rugby player?
It's difficult to say. I mean, obviously, I missed out on 2003 World Cup through injury. I'd like to think through injury. At the time, the wheels came off in terms of Kamstaldraad and all of that, which I missed through the injury. But who knows from that side? And that's always was one of my goals to actually get to the World Cup. And I missed the 2007 World Cup through selection and right in the end there, So, which for me, yeah, that would have been a highlight getting to the World Cup. But I mean, yeah, sitting back and looking back, I wouldn't change anything of the past. If anything, maybe my versatility kept me out. At the same time, maybe it kept me into the team a lot longer. So once again, I would have just liked to have got more game time. I would have liked to have maybe just enjoyed my rugby. Because if I had coaches that believed in the small guys like Aaron Sir and Cheslin Colby, sheesh, you don't know what you can get out of that, and the potential lies within if someone believes in you. So I always like to look at the positives. So I knew what I had to give back to the game, and didn't really feel like I always had that opportunity. At the same time, my head wasn't right at certain times. But my highlights was obviously playing for the Springboks. Only you say that I only started playing rugby when I was 16, 17. I was more of a footballer, so I never really had in my horizon anything of that sort to play rugby. Being small, English, just a footballer, if you call it that. So when looking back, I'd say a highlight was actually just playing rugby. So it worked out well in the end. But I always felt I had more to give.
You're answering all my questions before I even ask them. So this is making my job a little bit more difficult. But it's interesting because I've got to know quite a few players over the years, and I play cricket with Terum Tembo, and he's a typical example of someone who was faced with a decision at school because he was an incredible school cricketer. I know Victor Matfield was another great school cricketer, as was Well, there's quite a few of them actually, and they actually had to make a decision at some point to either play rugby or cricket, and they made a decision to play rugby. Were you also faced with a similar situation where were you a decent enough football player to have pursued a career maybe in that direction?
So yes, and I mean, I didn't choose rugby in the end. I was always given ample opportunity to enjoy sport. I played a lot of provincial football in my early ages. I was playing at Wits before I left, so it was always my dream to be a footballer. And maybe there was an opportunity early on to go overseas and all of that. There was talk about that, but it just was it never materialized. And then I went down to East London, finished off at Selborne, and there was no football there. So ended up just playing rugby at school. There was no club after school. And yeah, just had a good year in my matric year. Loved my rugby. That's all I was set out to do, was just actually enjoy playing my sport. No pressure. And then went overseas for a year and didn't play any rugby. I played for like a fourth, fifth division club just for fun. Wouldn't train once a week, just so that I could, obviously from a social aspect. And then moved back to Cape Town, where I got pulled into under 21s for 2 years. From under 21s, got seen in the Seventh Circuit. From the Seventh Circuit, got my first contract with the Pumas, and obviously an opportunity to go play, go out for the trials with the Springboks. And so, yeah, the rest was history. I mean, I guess you take the opportunities that come about. I mean, if you had to say 6 months before I was a Springbok, I was playing thirds, seconds at UCT as scrum off, because Gert Small wanted to see me at scrum off. So I was trying to get as much game time under my belt at scrum off. So I wasn't planning on playing serious rugby, if you call it that. But it just so worked out. And so, yeah, I suppose rugby chose me in the end. And yeah, well, as I said, wouldn't change anything in the past.
The game is better off for it. So it was actually, you were one of the most beloved players in your time. People absolutely loved you. You're also one of the players, I think you're the only player, I was reading somewhere, you're the only player that has played every position in the back line for the Springboks. Am I correct in saying that? I think I read that somewhere.
I don't think I came on. I don't think I played scrum off, but I played 15 up. I also don't know if I played inside centre. I don't think that would have gone down too well. When we
Maybe I read that wrong. Maybe it wasn't for the Springboks. Maybe it was for various teams. You've played every single position.
Yeah, and like I say, my versatility maybe counted in my favour, where it did allow me extra selections to get on the bench. But if you look at a Billy, or you look at I mean, we're going in with the Springboks with two back reserves. If we saw Jaden come on in the first minute, and then we've only got one more back, Billy, came on in the last 2 minutes, or I only saw him on the last 2 minutes. But in saying that, what happens if one of them went down, and Billy had to come on, and then there was another injury in the back line? The versatility of Kwagga Smith, no doubt, is. I mean, no doubt he would be sticking on the wing, and he would be more than capable of managing that position. My point being is that versatility definitely helps. But yeah, I would have preferred to have stuck in one position and actually gone a little bit further.
I was actually going to ask you about that one position, but just talking about Kwagga now, I think Kwagga would even go play 9 if he was asked to. He would certainly, and probably do well there as well. What was that position for you? What was your preferred position? What did you enjoy playing?
So definitely my favourite early on was fly half, because I was right involved in the game. That's how I made sevens. That's how I made province, and yeah, I got selected at the Springboks as a 10. And so, yeah, the 10 for me was a key position, but I suppose later on in my career, I actually preferred 15. I had more space. I could view everything. I wasn't in that front line. Yes, I wasn't in that front line from an attack point of view, because that's all I wanted to do, is just get that ball and go. But I think your career is a little bit extended when you're not in the front line for for that on that 10 on defense. It's a brutal position with some man mountains running at you. I think one of my first games I played as Sharks in the Super Rugby at 10, I got concussed with Tana Umanga, and I just remember waking up and looking up, and then all the New Zealander guys are all looking down on you, and so I was completely knocked out. But I reckon that would have been a lot more had I continued staying at number 10, and you do need a bigger, more solid 10 who can withstand some of those bigger collisions. But in saying that, you still see some Matt Gittos, some guys been in those positions for their whole career, but I suppose you get well organized defense systems that don't allow one player to be exposed.
Who was the best player that you ever played against, regardless of position?
Sure, it's difficult to say that. I mean, we used to play against a lot of players. I mean, I would always say in my position, I would say at 10, if I was looking at 10, back in the day, I always thought Dan Carter was a difficult to play. But I mean, we at Sharks always seemed to play well against the New Zealand sides. I don't remember us actually really sitting back and thinking, wow, that was the best player. But the Tana Umangas, they were immense. I always used to look up to Christian Cullen. I think I had a game against him, but he was a lot older, and so didn't really see his flashy strengths come through like they used to. But I know there's good players. You don't actually. My thing is you don't notice the individual players, I suppose, but more the quality teams. So when a team comes out, and no doubt you've got the big boys like Jonah Lomu, I think is one of the best rugby players was one of the best rugby players in the world. Try and tackle him, yes, it's impossible, almost. Yeah. But in saying that, I mean, you've got good players everywhere. They're all seen as one. You're only as good as the guys around you. In what 100%. I believe.
How's life been after rugby since you hung up your boots?
Yeah, so it's been all right. I mean, we're sitting based in Durban. Yeah, got 3 kids. I'm a family man, so loving the fact that I can actually spend the weekends with my family watching sport and all that. But I say I've got a real job now. I work for just delisted. We had a listed company called Anchor Capital. It's an investment house, but I'm more focused on the institutional side of the business. So I'll go and look at companies, businesses, and restructuring pension provident funds, putting in place other schemes that obviously suit the company, and just manage it from there. So got a team of people that manage the should I say the schemes, and being at Anchor, there's very specialized advisory business, so we can talk to anything, and that's what I've been enjoying is the engagements or the relationships that I hold with business people now, and I'm enjoying it. That I am enjoying that line of work. So it's not like you say you're not enjoying it. You don't want to wish I was in property or anything, but I actually really do enjoy the work. It does get tough at times. It's not easy coming off a professional sport, I suppose, with, let's say, rugby, and people have this preconceived idea of he's not intelligent, or that he can't handle business in this line or that line or whatever it may be. So we trying to shake that image has also been slow, and like I said in one of the meetings, I go, they says, but what does a ex-professional rugby player know? And so you get that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've met enough ex-professional sports people that are incredible business people, the likes of Gary Teichmann, Andre Hubert, guys like that. They've all gone on to be very successful in business afterwards. So, yeah, let's not let people box you into,
No, of course not.
into a corner,
Yeah.
because sportsmen are smart. You've got to be smart to be a sportsman, that's for sure.
Yes.
Brent, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And what I normally do
Thanks,
is I run a trivia question on a daily basis, and I like to throw the question at my guest as well. Are you happy to answer the question? Let's see how smart you are.
Okay, let's go.
Listen, I
Is it
designed it
multiple
specially.
choice?
No, I designed it specially for you today. It's a rugby question, and it's actually super easy. I've already got correct answers from a whole host of people, a whole host of listeners. So the question is quite simple. I'll give it to you right now.
Time to test your knowledge with Power Play Trivia.
Very simple, Brent. Where and when was the first Rugby World Cup held?
Oh, jeez.
No, come
New
on.
Zealand,
That's correct.
1987.
You had me nervous there for a second.
Oh, well, 1987. I mean, obviously we weren't involved.
Yeah.
And New Zealand have, well, apart from their last one, but they'd only won on home soil, the World Cups, and they've played in an extra World Cup than what we have. We won the same amount. We're still the reigning World Cup champions. So I'd like to say we're the most successful rugby nation to date.
Well, I think so.
The record, obviously, the record against the All Blacks doesn't show that, but I believe we are.
Yeah, well, that's a nice thing about records. They can change. Because we'll play against the All Blacks for another 100 years, and that's 60 to 37. Well, what was 60 to 38 now? We'll probably turn around, and I'm going to say it'll be 90 to 70 in the next 50 years or so.
Let's hope so.
Just guessing. Brent, thank you so much for joining us, for making the time to be with us. We look forward to hearing more successes in your business life post rugby, and we'll catch you around at golf days and things like that, as I've run into you a few times.
Thanks, Noel.
Brent, have a
appreciate
good
it.
one.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to RTL SA.